The rain was pouring like it knew something terrible had just happened. A crowd stood frozen on the roadside, phones raised, whispers cutting through the storm, until one man pushed forward, knelt beside the injured woman, and said words that didn't belong to strangers. "Don't cry, I'm here now." Her trembling lips moved, her eyes locked onto his face, and she whispered something that made his breath stop. "I knew you before." If stories of kindness, fate, and unexpected connections touch your heart, like this video and subscribe to the channel right now, because this story will stay with you long after it ends. People say accidents happen in seconds, but the moments afterward can stretch into eternity. Daniel had been driving home late, exhausted from another double shift at the warehouse, when he saw the chaos ahead: flashing hazard lights, a crumpled bicycle near the curb, and a woman lying motionless on the wet asphalt. Most drivers slowed, stared, and moved on. Daniel didn't. He parked without thinking, his heart pounding as he ran toward her. She was conscious but barely, her face pale, one arm bent at an unnatural angle, rain mixing with blood near her temple. The crowd murmured useless advice, but no one knelt, no one except Daniel. He took off his jacket, gently placed it under her head, and spoke softly, as if his voice alone could anchor her to life. Hey, don't cry. I'm here now. You're not alone." Her eyes fluttered, unfocused at first, then slowly settled on him. Something shifted in her expression, confusion melting into a fragile recognition. Sirens wailed in the distance, but to Daniel, the world narrowed to her shallow breaths and the way her fingers clutched his sleeve as if letting go meant disappearing forever. "It hurts," she whispered. Daniel swallowed his fear and nodded, because lying felt crueler than truth. "I know, but help is coming. Stay with me, okay?" She blinked again, studying his face like it was a photograph from a life she'd misplaced. Rain slid down his forehead, but he didn't wipe it away. Then she said it, so quietly he almost missed it. "I knew you before." Daniel froze. He searched his memory in panic. Neighbors, coworkers, old classmates, but her face was unfamiliar. She looked no older than 30, with dark lashes clumped from rain and pain, and eyes filled with something deeper than fear. "I think you're confused," he said gently, though his chest felt tight. "It's okay. Just focus on breathing." She shook her head weakly. "No, not confused," she murmured. "You held my hand like this, a long time ago." Her grip tightened slightly, sending a strange shock through him. The sirens grew louder. Daniel kept talking, about the rain stopping soon, about how the ambulance would take care of her, about how she was strong, even as his mind raced. Why did her words feel heavy with truth? Why did he feel like this moment had already happened somewhere, sometime? Paramedics finally arrived, moving quickly and efficiently. As they lifted her onto the stretcher, she cried out, not from pain, but from fear of being separated from him. "Please," she said, tears streaking her face. Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'm right here," he promised. "I won't leave." He climbed into the ambulance without even thinking about the consequences, holding her hand as the doors slammed shut and the vehicle sped through the rain. Under the harsh ambulance lights, she looked smaller, more fragile, yet her gaze never left him. "You kept that promise," she whispered faintly. Daniel's heart pounded. "What promise?" he asked. Her eyes closed as exhaustion overtook her, but a faint smile touched her lips. "That you'd come back for me." And just like that, she slipped into unconsciousness, leaving Daniel with a question that echoed louder than the sirens. Who was she, and how could she possibly know him? The hospital smelled of antiseptic and sleepless nights. Daniel sat rigid in a plastic chair outside the emergency room, his hands still damp, not sure if it was rain or sweat. He replayed her words over and over, "I knew you before." It made no sense, yet it wouldn't let him go. Hours passed before a nurse finally approached, her expression tired but kind. The woman had survived surgery. She'd lost a lot of blood, had a fractured arm and a concussion, but she was stable. Relief crashed over Daniel so hard he had to bow his head to breathe. "She keeps asking for you," the nurse added softly. Daniel looked up, startled. "For me?" The nurse nodded. "She says the man who held her hand needs to be there when she wakes up." He followed the nurse down the corridor, his footsteps slow, his heart racing. In the dim room, the woman lay surrounded by machines, her face calmer now, almost peaceful. When her eyes opened and found him, they filled with tears. "You stayed," she whispered. Daniel moved closer. "I said I would." She smiled weakly. "You always do." He pulled a chair close to her bed. "Listen," he said carefully, "you said something before, about knowing me. I don't think we've met. But I want to understand. She studied him, as if deciding how much truth he could handle. My name is Sarah, she said. And when I was a child, I was in a hospital just like this. Different city, different time. Daniel frowned. He had been in many hospitals as a child too, his mother had been sick for years. I was alone, Sarah continued. My parents had died in an accident. I remember being scared every night. Then one evening, a boy came in with his mother. He was quiet. He had kind eyes. He saw me crying and sat beside me. He held my hand and told me not to be afraid. He said, "I'm here now." Daniel's breath caught. Those words, he'd heard them before. He'd said them tonight without thinking. Sarah's voice trembled. That boy was you. Memories surfaced like shards of glass. Long hospital corridors, his mother sleeping, a little girl crying in the next bed, his small hand reaching out. He'd been 10. He had almost forgotten. You left the next morning, Sarah said, tears slipping down her cheeks. But before you did, you promised that if I ever needed help again, you'd come. Daniel felt his throat close. I was just a kid, he whispered. I didn't think you'd remember. Sarah smiled sadly. Kindness doesn't disappear. It stays. It waits. Silence filled the room, heavy but warm. Daniel realized something then. He hadn't stopped to help her because he was brave. He'd stopped because some part of him already knew her pain. Days passed. Daniel visited every evening after work. He brought books, soup, small jokes that made her smile despite the pain. Nurses noticed. Doctors noticed. Even Daniel noticed something changing inside him. Helping her didn't drain him, it healed him. When Sarah was finally discharged, she hesitated at the hospital doors. I don't know what comes next, she admitted. Daniel opened his jacket, offering it to her against the cold. Neither do I, he said. But you don't have to face it alone. She looked at him, eyes shining. And for the first time, the past stopped hurting, because it had finally found its way home. Life doesn't transform in grand gestures, it changes in quiet, consistent choices. Weeks after the accident, Sarah's arm healed slowly, but her spirit healed faster. Daniel helped her find a small apartment near his place, drove her to physical therapy, and listened to her talk about rebuilding a life that had always felt temporary. In return, Sarah reminded Daniel how to slow down, how to rest, how to believe that his kindness wasn't accidental, it was who he was. One evening, as they sat on a park bench watching children run under golden sunlight, Sarah turned to him. Do you ever think about how different things could have been? She asked. Daniel nodded. All the time. She smiled softly. But we're here now. Those words, once spoken in fear and pain, now carried peace. Months passed. The rain returned one night, gentle this time. Daniel and Sarah stood under a streetlight, the same road where fate had reunited them. Sarah reached for his hand. I used to believe kindness was temporary, she said. That people help, then disappear. Daniel squeezed her hand. Some do, he admitted. But some promises just take longer to keep. They laughed quietly. Healing didn't erase scars. Hers were visible, his were hidden, but together they made space for something new. Not a fairy tale born of perfection, but a real story built on presence, patience, and choosing to stay. 1 year later, Daniel volunteered at a local hospital. Sarah joined him. They sat with frightened children, held hands, told them not to cry. And every time Daniel said, I'm here now, he understood the weight of those words. Because kindness echoes. Because one small act can return years later in the middle of a storm, reminding you who you are. The story didn't end with applause or miracles, it ended with two people walking forward, together, carrying the quiet truth that love often begins as simple compassion. And sometimes, the people we save us right back. If this story touched your heart, reminded you of the power of kindness, or made you believe in meaningful connections again, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more emotional, life-changing stories. This is True Kindness Tales, where one small moment can change everything. Yellow Heart.